Hey, this is Joe Hubbard from JoeHubbardBassVideos.com, coming at you today with another lesson. Now this is the first lesson in my functional diatonic harmony course, and this particular lesson is on the 2-5-1 progression in major. Now grab your bass and let's get started. When we harmonize the major scale, we end up with 4 different 7th chords. This is of vital importance because these chords are the sounds which outline the major tonality. So just as a review, if I take a C major scale and I harmonize it from every degree of the scale, I'm going to end up with a C major 7 chord. On the 2nd degree I have a minor 7th chord. On the 3rd degree I have a minor 7th chord. On the 4th degree I have a major 7th chord. On the 5th degree I have a dominant 7th chord. On the 6th degree I have a minor 7th chord. And then on the 7th degree I have what's called a minor 7 flat 5. So if we look at all of these chords from the different degrees of the major scale, we'll see there's only really 4 different chord qualities. On the 1 and the 4 we have a major 7th, and this is important to look at as well. And as we build in this course, you're going to start to see the interdependency of these different chords. But on the 1 I have a major 7, and on the 4 I have a major 7. Okay, on the 2 I have a minor 7, on the 3 I have a minor 7, and then on the 6 I have a minor 7. Okay, on the 5 I have a dominant 7, and then on the 7 I have a minor 7 flat 5. So again, those are the 4 chords: major 7, minor 7, dominant 7th, and then minor 7 flat 5. The way to identify how chords function in a harmonic progression is by first identifying the dominant 7th chord. There's only one dominant 7th chord within a major scale, and this is the chord that leads us back to the tonic of the key. This root motion of resolving down a perfect 5th or up a perfect 4th is one of the cornerstones of the Western music major-minor harmonic system. So if I take a 2 minor 7, and in this case in the key of C it's going to be D minor 7, and then I resolve it down a perfect 5th, I'm going to go down to the 5/7th chord, which is G7, and then up a perfect 4th brings me to the 1 major 7th chord. By coming up with these chords, we end up with the most common harmonic progression from the major tonality, which is the 2, 5, and then the 1. The outcome of this creates a consistent root motion between each chord, which is either down a perfect 5th or up a perfect 4th. This is the most common root motion that occurs in Western music, and this is of particular importance to bass players as we are playing the bass lines. The 2 minor 7, 5/7 to 1 major 7 progression is the most definitive chord progression that outlines the tonality from a major key center. This progression is so common that you will need to memorize this in the same way that a young math student learns his times tables. With time, you will come to realize that close to 90% of all harmony is based on a 2-5-1 or a variation of a 2-5-1. As we progress with these lessons, those variations will be discussed in some detail. Remember that the reason the majority of harmony is based on this progression is that there's a faster recognition of a major key area when these specific chords are used. When learning this progression, we must be able to recognize any combination of these chords and also in every key. This enables us to determine momentary key areas at any given point of a composition. Now what I want you to do is download the PDF worksheet on this lesson, and I want you to fill in all the combinations of the 2-5-1s. I also want you to start practicing it mentally. So let's just take a random key, E flat major. And from that key, I want you to understand what the 2-5-1 is. So you need to say, F minor 7, B flat 7 to E flat major 7. But I want you to know that out of sync. So let's say you saw a B flat 7 chord and it was roughly outlining this key of E flat major. I want you to be able to say, well, what's the related 2 of the B flat 7? And it's the related 2 minor 7 of the key. This is 5/7. The related 2 is F minor 7. Okay, so this is incredibly important. Let's take another key, key of A major. Okay, if I find the 5/7 chord, it's going to be E7. So the related 2 is B minor 7, and I need to understand this, and I need to be able to do this quickly, on the fly. So a lot of mental work. I want you to be sitting there visualizing and saying to yourself, just pick a key. You could start with C and say C major 7. Okay, what's the 5/7 of C major? Okay, it's G7. What's the related 2? It's D minor 7. Okay, now you go to E flat major. What's the 5/7? B flat 7. What's the related 2? F minor 7. Okay, do you kind of get what I'm talking about? D flat major. What's the 5/7? A flat 7. What's it related to? E flat minor 7. And you have to be able to do it. It's got to be snappy, and it has to become part of your subconscious training. The bass player is to create lines based on the chord progression. Although it is important to state the root of each chord, many bass players cannot play anything else and become hamstringed creatively as a result. A simple solution is a voice leading principle between chords that move down a perfect fifth or up a perfect fourth, just like the 2 minor 7, 5/7 to the 1 major 7 progression. So if I take a D minor 7th chord and I start it by playing the root, flat 3, the 5, and then the flat 7, and then voice lead it down by 1/2 step into the 3rd of the G7 chord, I get this voice leading principle, which is very powerful. It doesn't start the next bar on the root, but it sounds very strong because of this voice leading principle that I've created between the first chord at the 7th and then resolving to the actual 3rd. Now from here I want to just step down the scale and play a descending 4-note scale pattern. I'm going to play B, A, and then I'm going to take the G and then the F. This is now the 7th of the G7th chord, which is then going to resolve by 1/2 step into the 3rd of the C major 7 chord. And from here I'm just going to play a broken arpeggio pattern. Okay, so it goes like this. Now what also happens when you learn to play this, because I want you to learn this in all keys, and I've got a little drill that we're going to run through with a backing track later, is that you need 2 different fingerings. So if I had this first one here, I'm starting with the 4th finger. But if I start it with my first finger here, I have this sort of vibe. And this is very important when you're moving through different keys, because let's say I go from the key of C down to the key of B flat, and I move down in whole steps. This is very common, the progression of 2-5-1s just moving in whole steps. You see this a lot in different standards. So if I go my C major, 2-5, and then to my B flat, you see the economy of having a couple of different fingerings is going to take me a long way. One of the important things about this voice leading principle is that it's based on what's called guide tones. The guide tones are the 3rd and the 7ths of the chords, because the 3rd and the 7th of the chords is what determines the actual chord quality, not necessarily the root and the 5th. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a progression, and I'm going to play this against a backing track, and then like all the other things that we've done in the past, you can play along with the backing track after that. This is going to go through every key, but I'm going to move in whole steps. So what happens is that if I'm in the key of C, I have my 2, 5, 1, then B flat, okay, then it goes down to A flat, then it goes down to G flat or F sharp, then it goes down to the key of E, then it goes down to the key of D, and then I'm back, if I keep moving in whole steps, to the key of C. So at that point I'm going to move to the key of B, because that's down 1/2 step. But by moving in whole steps we only get 6 keys, so I have to move down 1/2 step from C to the key of B, and that gives me my other 6 keys. So now I have the 2, 5, 1 in B, the 2, 5, 1 in A, the 2, 5, 1 in G, the 2, 5, 1 in F, and then the 2, 5, 1 in E flat, and then my 2, 5, 1 in D flat, and then I'm back to the key of C. So I've gone through that complete cycle there. Now when you're playing these lines, I want you to kind of think creatively. You don't have to do it exactly the way that I'm doing it, okay? You can do it kind of a different way. But it's going to be a combination of you trying to be thinking on the fly, and also trying to be economical about your choices, so you're not just flying all over the place. Now sometimes you're going to have to move around. So if I start here, I go to my key of C, then to B flat. Okay, so now I'm going to the key of A flat, so that kind of seems the right thing to do in an economical sense. And I want you to kind of build that sort of sixth sense by practicing this stuff, and then just going, oh yeah, it's right there. And I think from a lot of the penta stuff that we've worked as well, you'll see that that relationship kind of, you know, coming in and out of this to where, yeah, that's the sort of the closest way that I can do this. Now this isn't really based on the strict penta thing, and really as we progress and evolve, we don't just want to limit ourselves to just that pentapositional kind of concept. That's only part of the greater whole. So if I'm here from A flat, and then I go to my key of G flat or F sharp, and a good trick is the key that I was coming from is gonna, that root of that key will be the root of my 2 chord for the next key. So you see how I'm right there for this key here, okay? So then, you know, my next key from the key of F sharp is gonna be the key of E. So at this stage, I don't know, I'm down in my lower register. I might want to explore the register a bit, so I might want to move it up. So here I've moved it up to this point here, and then again I've gone to the key of D at this point. Okay, now remember, that should be your little signpost when you get to that key of D to say that's taking me through my 6 keys. Now I want to go to the key of B, not back to the key of C. So I'm right here. Okay, the next key is going to be A. So again, remember that that root of the previous key is going to be the root of the next 2 chord. And again, don't just work on patterns. You know, don't just learn the 2 patterns and then do that. As you're learning, make sure your mind's engaged. Make sure your mind is figuring out what you're actually playing in relation to that key. This is very important. Then from here, I'm at the key of G. Okay, so it's going to go down to the key of F, and I'm just going to keep it in position, so I'm going to bring it up here. Okay, going to the key of E flat. Okay, and then I end off on the key of D flat, which is here. Okay, so work that out before you play the backing track. You'll see there's a little PDF handout on that as well, so you can see the progression. You can kind of look at how that's moving. and get that down, and once you really have it under your fingers, then start playing along with the backing track. But like I said, you don't have to stick to this exact plan that I've given you. That's only one way. Explore different things, and check out different registers, check out different positions. This could take you, you could constantly be referencing back to this drill as we progress with this course. About wraps up today's lesson, but before we go, let's take a look at what we've learned today. In today's lesson, we've learned how to recognize a 2-5-1 progression in any major key area. And one of the focal points of today's lesson is being able to understand and recognize any combination of the 2 minor 7, 5 7 to 1 major 7th chord, so we can understand that in real-time application for functional harmonic analysis. What we also did was we learned how to voice lead our bass lines to create a smoother transition while moving from one chord to the next. And then we took that concept and put it into a functional drill with a backing track, moving through all the 2-5-1s in every key, moving down in whole steps. As always, practice smart, work hard, and play creatively. I'll be checking back in with you next week with lesson 2, so hang with me.